VAR, some, but not others. What's this about?
It's ludicrous for me. Absolutely ludicrous. How you can have, effectively different playing fields in two different games that can affect. And we're talking about, a cup competition that can mean so much to certain clubs.
Exactly.
It really can in terms of getting through, but also in terms of the lower league clubs where financially they would benefit from going through to the next round. It's something that really bothered me throughout the whole weekend that they had it in different games, and then again VAR just keeps showing itself. I was someone that I did want video assistance, but it just feels like time and time again the people operating it are making mistakes or not, certainly not, showing it in the way that it should be used. To say that you haven't got the camera angle,
but you'd be wrong,
Liverpool.
Dean. See, because the tragedy of the argument is that facts trump sentiment. The sentiment is that VAR should work at 100% of efficiency, so should get it right every single time. The reality of it is nothing works to that level. We did a statistical analysis, Jim, before Christmas, I think, where it showed how many interventions that VAR has had on goal interventions that would never have been goals if VAR wasn't there, and how many did it miss that should have been. There were 44 interventions which resulted in a goal being given that wouldn't have been given otherwise, and 6 that said that they missed. So we've got a situation where 90% of VAR interventions result in a goal being given. Now, once upon a time, VAR was described as a goal-removing system that was there to stop goals being scored. Now, the central theme of the argument we're making here, it is preposterous to suggest that a competition that is supposed to be on a level playing field enables one set of refereeing opportunities whilst another set are being deployed somewhere else. So you either have VAR through this entire tournament and every team plays with that benefit, or you don't have VAR at all.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. And given the fact that we've seen the statistics suggest that 44 goals have been awarded as a result of VAR, it's a goal awarding machine. So that means in an FA Cup game, goals could potentially be awarded if you've got VAR that may not be awarded if you haven't.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Could you
it's queering the pitch.
What about the Wolves goal? In actual fact, Dean, this was Lopetegui post-match. Lopetegui actually claimed the goal should have stood because he had his own little angle on his tactical camera that said, yeah, the goal should have stood.
The offside that they have, whistle offside, we have seen and doesn't exist offside, sorry, it's impossible. We have seen, he have seen, but someone tell him that he's offside because we have seen the image and doesn't exist. 2 touches are our players and in the second touch he doesn't work.
I mean, not only was VAR in use at Anfield, but Lopetegui had his own little system. And he's his own version of events. Simon's right, isn't he? This is the FA Cup, Dean. It's either in use for all ties or not at all.
I can't.
And probably not at all.
I can't agree more with that. Nobody knew why at Anfield. The fans didn't know. The people watching, the people listening. No one actually really knew. It took, I think, possibly 10 minutes after the goal for there to be something that came out that said, well, we didn't have the camera angle to make absolutely sure, so we have to go with the on-field decision, which is crazy to think that they can't have the full pitch analysed. But I still, a big part of me still wants VAR because of the things that Simon have said and other things I think in the game that would stop simulation and all of these type of things. But for me, it's the for example, the Salah goal. It's the interpretation of some of the laws. It's the amount of time it takes. It's the fact that everyone's pretty much in the dark, especially in the stadium, in terms of what's actually going on.
The people who need to know.
That fan experience.
Yeah.
There's still some real big issues that need tackling.
Dean's absolutely right, Simon. It's in use at Anfield.
Yeah.
Mike Dean was on VAR
Not that
duty.
they got it right for anything, really, did they?
But they couldn't find any clear and obvious reason to overturn the on-field decision, as there was no definitive camera angle to check the offside.
Yeah. Well,
so they've got it, but they can't really definitively use it.
Again, we talked about the nature of cameras being utilised in the World Cup with a particular goal in the game against the Germans, wasn't it? where
Yes,
a touchline Japan, where a touchline camera needed to be put into place, and an argument was being suggested that you need to cover the whole pitch. If that's the next evolution of VAR, then that's the next evolution. I still maintain that the one argument that I believe holds water is the diminishing of spontaneity by the time it takes to make a decision. I've always concurred with that argument. Danny Murphy's always made that as the ideal behind VAR, which is it removes the instantaneous reward of scoring a goal because you're waiting to see if it's going to be awarded or not. I get that argument. But the idea that VAR somehow hasn't advanced the decision-making process is just a load of old cobblers. Of course it has. It's eliminated more mistakes. It's been involved in awarding more goals. So once upon a time, it was called the system that was designed to stop awarding goals. That narrative's gone away now because the facts have superseded the backdrop of people's thinking, i.e. the sentiment of it all. Because we did the statistics before Christmas. 44 more goals being awarded as a result of VAR, 6 decisions being missed.
Yeah.
So that kills the argument that VAR is a goal-removing system.
That's right.
But they've still got work to do. They've got the referees to be getting better standards. They've got the authoritative nature of referees on the pitch decisions to be better. They've got the managers to behave themselves to stop influencing referees when they're running over to the monitors. And they've got camera angles that could be improved. Fine. But we seem to live in this world where nobody can ever make a mistake besides the officials.
Yeah. I
That's
agree.
the only people that are not allowed to make a mistake.
You got to think, Dean, they should scrap, or should they scrap VAR for the FA Cup from this point
Well,
onwards?
they should. Well, I think it's not actually feasible, is it, to have VAR at certain stadiums? So you can't have it then.
So you've got to scrap it.
Well, that's the point. What they're saying is clearly, if you've got there's no configuration for anything other than the Premier League, right? No other grounds have got them. The Championship grounds haven't necessarily got them, have they? And neither has League One and League Two. That's a cost implication situation because the licensing fees for VAR are about 150 grand a year, and the infrastructure set up is a couple of hundred grand. So none of these clubs in League One are going to want to pony up 350,000 quid to have VAR. So that's the decision. What football should be able to do is we're so awash with money. What we're going to do is we're not going to make it 2 games. We're not going to make it a game in the Premier League. We've already allowed the financial game to change the direction of football. We're not going to allow the rules to change it. What the Premier League should be doing with the FA is giving 25 million quid to go and fund 80 football clubs or it's not 80 football clubs, it's 72 outside of the Premier League with VAR.
I mean, the argument is, Dean,
for professional football.
had there been no VAR at Liverpool Wolves could be in the next round.
Well, possibly, yeah, possibly.
Two of the goals at Sheffield Wednesday were questionable. But there was no VAR.
No, and I did see a lot on social media that were saying how great it was to watch the games that didn't have VAR. And so there's still a disconnect. There's still a massive disconnect between VAR being here and the fan experience and how they feel about it. And
we are being led by a dissenting section of the media and a dissenting section of pundits that keep on railing against it. Now, I don't suggest you should say, well, that's white because you want to convince people it's white rather than red. You've got to call things for what they are. But what they are is VAR has improved the amount of goals that are being scored under VAR's tutelage. So I thought that was the object of the aim. I thought that was it. So when we've got people like Lineker flapping their gums about what should be the situation surrounding VAR, and other people are piling in with it, they're poisoning the minds of people by saying this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And I get some of it, but I think if there were less dissent and more support of things, then you wouldn't find so much resistance from the viewing public.
The same Gary Lineker at the weekend. Football's much more fun without VAR. Coming up to 12 noon.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.